Good morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. Hope everybody's having a enjoyable weekend, getting things done, relaxing, resting, watching college football, whatever you do when you're not going through the grind that is life. This morning, this is kind of brought up by something. I talked about this briefly on the live stream last night, but this is something that was talked about. I got an email about, and it was a little disconcerting. Now, we all know guys, the male persuasion, at least by genetics definition, we get a bad rap for not reading directions, right? I'll figure it out. No big deal. And anymore these days, the directions you get when you buy something are garbage anyway, because somehow they were translated from Chinese to English by, a 4-year-old. But it brings up a point because one of my personal biggest pet peeves in the prepping community is people who are collectors, not preppers, that they think prepping is all about buying gear and having it for when they need it. Okay? Part of it. Knowing how to use it is critical, all right? And I mean, I'm not saying everybody needs to be a jack of all trades. God knows I'm not one. Y'all know I took my truck into the shop. Why? Because I don't know, especially new cars, enough about how to fix motors. Okay? When something's wrong, I'm going to find somebody that knows what they do or knows what they're doing. But that brings in a couple of things into play. The email I got was from one of y'all saying that they were trying to teach their daughter's boyfriend something about hand tools. Okay, simple stuff. Speed square, tape measure, and the kid said, the world has changed. I don't need to know that. I don't know. Is that a complete admission of failure by our school system that somebody doesn't know how to measure something? I mean, just for the simple reason of having to teach somebody how to use a tape measure is bad enough, okay? But having all the gear, having all the tools is wonderful. But if you don't know how to use them, they're useless. I mean, silly example. What's the point of having a Maserati if you don't know how to drive a stick? Right? Okay. You know, solar generators, for example. A lot of you guys are buying them. A lot of you guys win them. Whatever it would be. So a lot of people are getting them. Do you use it? Okay. Do you know how? Have you gone out and charged it? Have you hooked it up to your solar panels? Have you seen where the best place, the best time, the right angles to get a charge on it for? It's real easy to plug it into the wall and charge it. Sure, right now that's fine. In an SHTF situation, that's not going to be useful. Figuring it out then, probably not the best idea. You're losing time, which is something you can't get back. Do you know how to use hand tools? Okay, I'm not talking about your miter saw or something like that, or your circular saw. I'm talking about, do you know how to use a miter box? Do you have a miter box? Do you have a hand drill, the crank type drill? You're going to need those things. I mean, simple. Do you have a hammer? Do you have nails? Do you know how to use them? Do you know what nail is what type of nail is used for what application? The reason I'm saying that, okay, I don't know, let's think simple stuff. Let's say there's a storm and it busts out a window. Do you know how to put a board up over the window to protect you from the elements, okay? Worse yet, there's bullet holes in your house. Do you know how to fill those? Do things like that. It's simple things that are important. You know, we have, I don't know, our life straws. Have you ever taken one out of the box and tried it? I mean, I know this sounds silly, but this is one of the things that I see with people. It's like, oh, well, I've got all this stuff. I mean, there was a video by a creator one time, if you guys remember this, where somebody gave a challenge for cooking outdoors, and I did the little Dakota fire hole and everything like that. And there was another creator that decided to, oh, here's my mess kit laying on the ground. Did he do anything with it? No. Was it still in a box? Yes. Okay. I mean, it's silly stuff. Those aren't preppers. Those are collectors. You know, weaponry. I've got a shotgun. I've got a 22. I've got a pistol. I've got an AR. Yada yada yada. Do you know how to use it? Okay. Have you taken it out and fired it? Have you taken it apart and cleaned it? Do you know how to do that? Okay. These are the things. Just because you have the stuff, you're not creating a museum to preppers. You know, you're creating something that will keep you alive. And just because you have the tools, if they're all nice and shiny and doing everything, they haven't been worked. All right. I don't claim to know how to do everything by a long shot. Like I said, I don't know how to do small engine repair. I don't know how to do automotive repair. I mean, there's some things I know. You know, like I can change a tire and change my oil and do things like that. Okay, but you know, I'm not going to replace an intake manifold on my car. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, simple as that. My biggest I remember as a teenager back in the day when you could do this, and my friend had a 1978 Chevy Monza, and we took the carburetor off and sat at his kitchen table and rebuilt his carburetor. Find a car with a carburetor anymore. Okay. You know, that's about the last real hands-on doing anything militarily, automotively that I have. Okay. Do I know people in an SHTF situation? Obviously, I'm not going to the shop. Do I know people in the local area who have the ability? Yeah, I know a guy who's good at small engine repair. But if the starter's shot on my truck, it's not like I'm going to be able to get another one anyway. So just because you know somebody, still, the parts aren't going to be available. And no, I'm not saying go out and start buying, you know, a new starter and a new solenoid and, you know, a new intake manifold, whatever would be, and have a stockpile of spare parts in your garage. No, I'm not saying that. You know, there are going to be things that are just done when SHTF happens, okay? Yeah, maybe you find a broke down car somewhere, somebody that disappeared, you don't have keys to it, you pop the hood, you take the starter, you put it in your truck. There's going to be a lot of scavenging and cannibalizing of vehicles for parts. That's a no-brainer. But somebody's got to know could you find the starter in your car? Just saying. But simple things like knowing how to use your garden tools, okay? Or repairing your garden tools. I've talked about, cleaning, sharpening, shovels, hose, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of you guys ask me questions about that. Hand tools, saws, hammers, drills, those things you're going to need to make repairs or quite likely build things that you need when you are living on your own, if you will. I've talked to you guys a few times about building these stairs, okay? I know how to pour concrete. Am I the greatest at it? No, there's guys that are professionals. I know woodworking, that I do know, okay? And so, I'm now building the rails and everything, setting those all in, doing all the woodworking on my porch. I have those skills. It's important because if I don't, or if I don't want to learn, if I didn't want to learn them, I've known how to do woodworking for 40 years. Uh, you know, all right, putting up railings on my stairs, I'd probably pay $1,000, $800, something for somebody to do it. I got better use for that kind of money. But this is the thing, just because you have all this stuff doesn't mean you are prepped. It means you have the collection of things, having the skills to use them. You know, in SHTF, it's not going to have to be pretty, but it's going to have to work. And a lot of times that's going to be getting creative with how you can solve a problem. Okay? You know, it's not going to be, oh, you know, I can't find any 5/4 boards to replace the hole in my, porch or whatever, the rotting wood. Fine. Find a 2x6, find a piece of plywood, patch the hole, whatever it is, so nobody gets hurt. Okay? And yet that's going to be important. And why do I have to bother that? Well, if somebody falls through, breaks a leg, and now you're in an SHTF situation. Now, not fixing that little problem's now caused you a big problem. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. But guys, if I can challenge you to do anything, look in your stockpile this weekend, especially if it's a rainy day or cold, nasty day outside. Look in your stockpile of stuff and find something that is unopened and spend an hour and learn how to use it. I mean, maybe it's as simple as how to use blood clot that you have, or maybe it's learning how to put a tourniquet on, something medical. Just because you have all this, you have an Israeli bandage, do you know how to use it? Not when somebody's life is at stake. It's not the time to go, hang on, let me read the directions. Oh, do we have a YouTube video stored on how to do it? The guy's going, oh my God, I'm dying. Yeah. Learn how to use this stuff now, guys. You don't have to be an expert, but at least be a jack of a few trades. Just saying. Have a good Sunday. Pinball out.